Swan. How's it going?
I'm doing generously good.
Awesome. Well, we have some guests here in the studio today, and they're just going to kick it right off because we, again, had that wonderful thing happen where things went kaput when we were ready to start, and we've already been ranting and riffing, so let's just jump right into it. We have Reckless Renegades in the studio right here. Carter and Nate, how are both of you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Fantastic.
That's great. How's the drive from Lethbridge?
It's, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's a pretty shit highway.
I made him drive so I didn't fall asleep at the wheel.
Poor dude.
It's gotten to the point that, because we're from here originally, right? And, going from school, that, back and forth, it's just, we can almost zone out to the point, right? And, you're suddenly in Bow Island, you're like, how did I actually get here?
Yeah, it's like, what happened to Tabor, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when you hit 7 persons, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just zone out and you're like, oh, man, okay.
Think about how many rules you've broken on the way here.
I think we just passed Colonel Peppers. That's awesome. Well, I haven't actually, seen you guys in years now.
It's been a while.
I remember Matt was actually talking about a mask I have up here, but the first time I saw you guys was December 2014 in a basement show. It was my old band's debut, and I can't remember if you guys have been playing shows for a while at this point.
We have been playing, I think that was our third show technically.
It was about that, yeah.
Okay.
So we were still pretty fresh into it as well, and because I think it was the day before we had gotten messaged about it saying, hey, a band dropped out, can you guys fill in?
That's right, you were a fill-in band. I forgot about
so we were
that.
just like, okay, let's get our crap together and we'll go to this. And they're like, okay, you'll be the first up and everything like that. And we're like, oh, okay, great. We'll just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
But it was funny because especially at the time, we were very pop punk and that sort of thing, right? And the promoter that was they still went for that, but once more of the bands started coming in, we're like, wow, we feel really out of place here because it was a bunch of hardcore bands and that sort of thing, and a lot of scream and that sort of thing. Yeah. And meanwhile, we're opening up with a cover of Green Day or something like that.
Hey, it was a good Green Day cover though.
But and then I remember I was really nervous because we were going to debut a new song that night, and I'm like, oh man, this is radio rock. How's this gonna turn out or that? And I'm like, okay, I just gotta not anticipate a whole lot of response from it, right? And don't take it too personally. But I think we did all right with it when you have a bunch of people in the front dancing to it, and then you guys were up next, and right away it's just screaming into it. And it's like, okay, I think if we got that response from from the hardcore scene or that sort of thing, who I guess maybe wouldn't normally listen to us, then I think we got it right.
Yeah, I remember we played a cover of The Middle by Jimmy Eat World pretty early in the set, and everyone was singing along and dancing to it. I was like, okay, yeah, this is actually going kind of well. Yeah.
Well, that's one thing that I really like personally as a promoter when I do shows, I've always been about that multi-genre thing. I'll bring in pop punk, grunge, rock, rap, and be like, everything at the wall. Why? Because I personally don't want to sit there for 4 hours listening to thrash metal. As much as I like the styles of my music, I personally, and it's weird being a guy from the southern Alberta metal scene, but I don't really enjoy thrash as much as the next metalhead. It was great for its time, and I think there's some great bands that hold that fast punk aggression, but I prefer stuff that for the longest time in this scene, especially around that time, a lot of metalheads are kind of putting their nose up to, because we were finally starting to get that hardcore and metal mesh, because I think just a few years before that show, our biggest issue was it was either you go to the thrash metal shows at Oli's, you go to the hardcore shows at the Legion, or you fuck off.
Yeah.
There's no crossover. Everyone's in their own thing. The all-age kids are having their fun with hardcore. The older guys are having fun with the thrash metal, getting drunk, and no one wants to play nice with each other. Yeah. And then we're kind of shifting that. And it's cool now that we have, are able to kind of do shows like that, because personally, I grew up on Green Day, The Living End, the Jimmy Eat World, and a bunch of these punk bands, Foo Fighters too for a while. And then I just found some heavier stuff and I get pulled to it. But especially in the rock band Guitar Hero era, I think a lot of us that are just into music enjoy good songs. Yeah. And that's what I really liked about you guys that day, because even if you were pop punk, it was this is nice. We get to open up something a little chiller, a little hookier, but this is going to be this is a nice way to start everything off. Yeah. And it was really cool seeing you guys just kind of hanging out in the jam space, my band's jam space next door after that, because we had all our flags up, all of our other shit, and you guys were like, oh wow, we're in the metal scene right now. We thought everyone was going to be like, "Grrr," but they're like, nah, man, come to our house and chill.
Yeah, it was very friendly. That's one thing I really liked about that. It was pretty cool.
And that's the one thing I found with the Medicine Hat scene in general, actually, and like a lot of Southern Alberta even, is that everyone is very friendly, no matter what genre you're in at this point.
Yeah, unless it's country.
Yeah, unless it's country. But yeah, it's just like everyone's so inviting and open to trying new things, right?
Yeah.
So
That's one thing I've really liked about the scene over the past few years too. It's a lot more open, and I feel that's benefited from promoters that have, not just myself, but there have been some other promoters. Desiree for Bandwagon was really good at this. Tyler and Chandler for their time, like just eventually getting into the mindset of, it's not just for you or for your friends, it's for everyone, and you're trying to make a show that will encompass the widest demographic. It's not about like, oh, I only want the 5 guys that are into metalcore that come to shows to enjoy an all metalcore night. It's like, I want to be able to give everyone something so that they can come out and enjoy the night, because I don't know about you guys. I don't know if it's the same in Lethbridge there, but I know it's still a big thing. The individuals that don't go to the shows because they don't know anyone, or they personally don't have anyone that has an interest in going with them, so they feel like they won't take anything away. They'll be like an outsider versus being like, we have all of this so that you can come in kind of attached to whatever you want, and then find the other people that are into it so that you don't have to feel like that individual. How is the scene in Lethbridge in comparison to what you've noticed in Medicine Hat, I guess, with everything?
pretty similar, I'd say.
so.
Yeah, like pretty open, and a lot of people go to a bunch of different things or that. So
what I've noticed about Lethbridge is that they really like diversify their shows. Like last night I went to a show that had like kind of like a hard punk band, and then the next band up they were like a techno house, just like relaxing. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was very instrumental
like
and electronic.
Stoner pop.
Stoner pop, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it was super cool because it opens you up to like a whole new genre of music that you never really would know about or come across, but it's something that you can enjoy. So
Yeah,
that's really cool.
that show last night was definitely a good mix of a bunch of different things. So
That's awesome. I like that because it gives, like I said, everyone something. You don't get bored. I find if you're listening to the same style, like I think it's also why bands don't really bring on, like larger bands don't always bring on acts that are just like them. They kind of like to bring a bit of diversity into their sounds as well. Because I don't know if you once saw Green Day, for instance, and then you had 4 other bands that sounded like Green Day playing right before Green Day.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be pretty sick of Green Day by the time Green Day
exactly,
got on stage.
right? You kind of want to give everyone a little something. So, but when we saw you back then, all this stuff we're talking about, you were Sideshow.
We were.
So a lot has changed now. Like we were reminiscing about the poster, like bands that have come, bands that have gone, bands that have changed names. Our opening track is actually one of the tracks that was on the compilation disc by Naraka.
Yeah.
That was we used Carnal-Tide. Van actually came in one day and went, I actually listened to it a few episodes, and I can't believe you used it on every single fucking one. Like, I love you guys, but damn. Like you were like, for us, Vannon was like the main dude that kind of got this going. He gave me a leg into the scene when like 2011, when I was first kind of curious about it and be like, I want to come to shows, but I'm broke as fuck, but I want to help because I really just don't want to listen. I want to like figure this out. Okay, come help me set up cables. All right, run this board, do these things. All right, Colton, you're going to help him. Actually, no, Colton, go run door, Nate. You got this. 1 year later. All right, guys, I can't make it to the shows anymore. It's on you. Here's the gear.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
You hear a lot of stories about that, and that's how people get into a lot of things in the industry or whatnot, right? Like I know Butch Vig, like producer for like Nirvana's Nevermind and a bunch of stuff like that, right? He got into producing at Sound City there at that studio, but he was originally like the front desk guy, and they just rotated through people, and then eventually it's just, oh, you worked your way to producer.
It's like Linkin Park's main engineer. When he first started working with them on Hybrid Theater and Meteora, he was the intern. He was the coffee guy. And then they just, I can't remember what the story goes. I listened to a podcast with him a long time ago, and either a session fucked up and he was just like there to fix it, or the main guy couldn't make it and he was just said to
Just had to do it.
Yeah, and then that relationship grew. But it's amazing how this starts in very small ways, and it really does come down to like the relationships you build with the people as you move along.
Yeah.
And like I want before we get more into like the Reckless Renegade stuff, that's like the festival I was telling you guys about that I'm organizing, and how I want to do that battle of the bands, and if we can get enough interest to have the top 2 bands come play that festival. I also want to try and find some volunteers from those high schools to help us run the shows. If they can help out with the battle of the bands and they do well enough, I'd love to bring them to the actual festival and have them help out with that. And it helps them in 2 ways. A, they get some experience and they kind of learn firsthand in a bit of a different environment. And 2, I believe work experience is still a thing. So if you want a credit or 2 in like time spent, we could really use the help, especially when he gets to setting something up of like those scales. Even if it's just a thing at Liquid for 2 days, it's going to be a long 2 days.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice to have as many hands as possible.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as shorts in the music business at all. So.
No, just a lot of hats.
Yeah.
But no, tell us more. Like, so in 2015, Sideshow was a thing, but what has happened over the past 4 years? Like, what kind of happened? There's one less of you than last time as well.
Actually, it's 2, I guess, from that first show that we
that's
met.
right,
We
you were
had
4 of these.
we did have a second guitarist. We only had, I think, for like 3
It was only a few
months
months. That was the only show he played, I believe.
No, our first one as well.
Oh yes, so he played 2 shows with
us. I think 2 shows. That was about it. But yeah, it was for the longest time. It was just a 3-piece or that. But we graduated from high school in 2015, and Carter and I went to Lethbridge for school or that, and we were still writing stuff. We didn't exactly have a practice space, but we were still just trying to build repertoire of that and kind of slowly build things up to be able to do something more. And like we had split off with our bass player, not unanimously. What's the word? It was mutual.
Mutually, yes.
And because she was still back here in Medicine Hat and everything like that. And we're still great friends with her and everything like that too. So yeah, it's just more that like we were roommates and everything like that too. So like if I had like a demo, I could just knock on my wall and there comes in Carter. Here, take a listen to this and tell me what you think. So we were able to write songs right there in our dorm rooms. So it was just building up a bunch of stuff, and like I went to a bunch of older stuff that I had written and I reworked parts and whatnot. I think I had gone through like in a year and a half, like 30 different tracks. And then just kind of started narrowing things down, and we finally got some practice space. It's very handy when your grandparents are at the same city that you're going to school in, and say, if you take down the bed in the spare room, you can use it as a practice room. All right, that's done in 5 minutes. Set up the drum kits,
free practice space. The
moment they're like, all right, you're already in the room taking shit out.
And so like we were able to do that, and we started working on a bunch of stuff for that, and then it was okay. Well, I think we have enough that we've kind of built the momentum up and that sort of thing. Let's try to actually put out our album this time. So because at Sideshow, I think we put out 3 EPs. There was like 2 originals, and one was an acoustic one, and so now there was always like we'd always talked about doing a full length album and that sort of thing, right? Because like for me personally, I'm still very much an album guy. I'm not so much a singles, right? Like even for like the new Papa Roach album that came out, I listened to the first 2 singles that came out. And then I said, okay, I'm not listening to anything else until the album comes out. So like I'm still very much like the whole package, right? And so it was okay. Let's start to actually put together a collection of songs, or that. So like what we've been currently working on, like Carter does help writing with a lot of the lyrics or that sort of thing, right? But a lot of the lyric stuff falls on me, and like this album has kind of become the greatest hits of what we've been able to write in the last 6 years now,
6 or 7 years,
and so it's kind of becoming our greatest hits, but not hits that anyone's
ever heard. So
it's just been more like the ones that we've like written and read and been like, these are the best ones that we have out of this whole time.
That's awesome.
I think that's what's really cool about your first album is you have as much time as you want to write it, but then after you put out that first album, people are waiting for the second one, and you got to crunch down. You only have about a year's worth of material to write it. But
well, that's where I find that things are different for us now, because I personally feel that albums should never be the focus for bands that don't have a following to amount for it. Your focus should be, if you want to release an album over the course of a year, a song a month.
Yeah.
That way you're keeping it constant, and it's still. I'm very much a top of mind thinker now, especially for bands that have to create a following, because the same could go for Lethbridge, the same could go for Calgary, same goes for here. If you're the top band in Medicine Hat, that doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Because oh, that's cool. Can you go to Edmonton and draw the same crowd? No, cool. You got to figure that one out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, and that's why I do feel bands, especially ones that are as active and as creative as you guys, would almost benefit from just releasing stuff over on a regular basis, treating them as singles in the way you promote them, but acting as if you're just releasing track 1 through 10 or 12 on an album, and keeping it on a regular basis, because it gives you more time to kind of dissect, I guess, which song you want to release. If say you have 16 and you're on the fence about 4 and you get down to the final ones and you can be like, well, fuck, let's just release them all, or these 2 need work. But it's just GreenBones, they're a band from Lethbridge that I work with, and that's how we're kind of going about things right now. They're recording a song a month for a while, creating a kind of a catalog, and then I think their plan is to release a song every few weeks after that once they have it all together. Just it helps, and I feel it makes it easier on promotion too, because I know I'm not sure if you guys have gone down the PR route before, or even looked into how much it costs to properly promote a full album, like getting the press releases, getting that music video debut shit, getting all that planning it. That's so much stress and so much strain. I remember I did it with Oath for our LP, and we were not adequately prepared. We had everything mixed, and we're going, they're like, oh, do you have this? And you have this, you have this. We're like, fuck, okay, let's fucking panic and get some subpar stuff ready for that fun stuff, instead of being like, we got all of our stuff ready, what else can we do before we start promoting it? Because I find sitting on it, not like for a long period of time, but just long enough to make sure you're going at it in a proper way, is more beneficial. I have a buddy who is very prone to finishing it and releasing it the next day.
Oh yeah.
And asking for feedback in the comments and saying that he maybe didn't spend that much time or is new at it, versus maybe spending a week on the track or a month on the track. And I'm curious to hear like it, because with you saying that, you also did EPs beforehand, so you kind of have this little bit of momentum for you. So it could be a different instance in that case for maybe giving you a boost in the realm of the people that already know you, opening up that advantage again down the line, and getting maybe more of a personal fulfillment thing as well, getting that first album done, so you can be like, I did it. All right, now let's learn and move on from there, because I feel that's a big thing for musicians. It was for me too, on like in my solo shit out a year and a half ago. Just being able to say you released a full album is really nice, and it just, there's a sense of accomplishment on it too, because you know how much work you put into it. So I'm really excited to kind of hear what you guys have done, and also kind of see how you guys go about releasing it and promoting it, because that's one thing I've noticed I'm eyeing that a lot more now when I'm looking at stuff. It's like, all right, so you released a track, that's great. How are you making me want to look at it? Because everyone released a track today, it seems. Which one am I going to click on? Because I only have so much time, and I want to. So I'm curious about that. And I'm also excited to listen to this song that we're going to listen to in a bit here. And I'm sorry for ranting and raving. Please continue on. We were talking about the album you're working on.
No, we've just been slowly working on it. You know, like we're still in school right now, but I'm finishing writing our last track for that, and
which I haven't even heard yet, by the way.
Nice. You're both in audio school?
Yeah.
Nice.
Just trying to finish up the lyrics and whatnot, and and then like I don't know how I found that we work is it's normally I'll have an idea, and then I bring that idea to Carter, and then the two of us flesh it out. It's never really one-sided or that at all. Like it's very 50-50 on how we work.
That's good too, especially with the drummer being like the feel of the song. If you get a bunch of riffs and ideas, I'm sure Carter can come in and think of like ways to really get different feels across with those riffs, and that's got to really, especially with how long you guys have been working with each other now, it's just got to be very natural with how you kind of lock into what you're doing.
It really is. Like he can come to me with a song, and he'll play the riff a couple times, and then I'll have a beat for it. And then as we go, we kind of change from like, oh, maybe we should do this with the riff, maybe we should do this with the beat, and we're always bouncing ideas off of each other, but it's always in a natural way, and we're able to like communicate our ideas with each other without using sensible, coherent sentences. So
so it's just like okay, like this thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, right. It's like this, and it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly it. So
Yeah.
You're able to communicate in your own weird language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's funny how it's always
Jinx,
in,
by the way.
It's funny. I was going to say it's funny how it's always in mainly groups of two. Oh God, I was listening to the Steven Tyler episode of the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about how he wanted to be that dynamic duo with Joe Perry when he decided to be a frontman. He's like, I need my other part. I need to create this dynamic like thing where we're just constantly.
Jesus, Paul McCarthy to his John Lennon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was exactly the quote, actually. And it's funny because with my band, we've lost our bass player just because long term he knows he can't come with us to Calgary and he doesn't want to create stress, and he's having a lot of fun in the band he's currently in. So that's awesome. He's just pursuing it. And our drummer just chose to leave and let us do our thing, and that is what it is. But that led us to have to be like, oh, now we have to kind of refocus things. We were going to record a single. I'm like, okay, I'm done guitar. If we're going to get down this route where we're starting to write really intricate parts and I'm doing vocals, I'm more of a hindrance doing two things at once than one. Let me push this to the side in the performance aspect. I'll still write, but so now we're bringing someone on guitar, and I'm thinking like, I'm not that good. Like I can do some cool stuff here and there, but my riffs aren't that complex. Oh, I guess I'm being told otherwise while trying to teach someone that I feel maybe has a better understanding of it than I do, like how to play it in a certain way. Yeah. And then after that's like, okay, you know the basics. I'm going to jump on the kit now so that we can jam as a band. You can kind of use it, and then we'll start freestyling. And Cesar and I will just kind of go off on it because when I started drumming, well, I bought that kit off him originally, so we've always been the duo that like jam together, and we'll just go off for 10-15 minute random jams where some of it is complete shit, but other times we're playing in SIGs we don't even realize. Like I found out we play a lot of 9/8 randomly after watching watch one Adam Neely video explaining 9/8 and go, oh no, no wonder our patterns take 6/4 bar progressions sometimes. But and then Mason will just sit there like, guys, the fuck are you doing? I'm scared right now. I am fundamentally intimidated with this instrument in my hand. Just calm down. Just calm down. It's all right.
It's just math.
It's something that comes, I think, growing and developing as musicians together, and then having that that bond. You guys were roommates. You've been bandmates for however long. You're going to the same school together. So it's really cool that you guys harness that in a very proactive way. Versus I know some. In history of music, there's a few notable instances, and just because he always gets brought up, Dave Mustaine, for instance, where the ego takes over completely and over encompasses everything and kind of ruins the dynamic. And I'm glad that 4 years in, or 5, I don't know, it's been a while now, but 5 years into seeing you guys as a unit, it seems like it's only gotten stronger and better for you guys, and you've kind of fit into yourselves a bit more from what I've seen.
Well, and the one thing too that I found is like with just the two of us, right? Like I'm not gonna leave Carter sitting behind me, right? Because like sure I may be the front man in ways, right? But like like I said, we're two parts of a whole, right? So like he will be up beside me or that kind of like kind of the same setup I guess as like 21 Pilots, right? It's like
that's cool.
And a drummer, right? So but then like I give him a microphone too because I can't just entertain the crowd on my own, right? Like and like we feed off of each other and that sort of thing too. Like the first show that we had played as a duo was actually an acoustic set in Lethbridge, and we just played back and forth off each other and that's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice to hear that people like your music, but like people were saying like, oh, just you guys bouncing off each other in between songs was one of my favorite parts.
We were almost like a full entertainment act, not just like musicians. We were,
that's awesome.
We're like Jimmy Fallon, but he's also has the band.
That's one thing I wish, like with all the bands I've been in, I wish my other guys felt comfortable behind a microphone because I hate doing the like in between thing, especially with like you've seen some of the stuff I've done in the past. I don't really have a lot of time to breathe, so it's like those in between sections, like, oh, cool, some water.
You gotta take a break.
It's like, no, I gotta talk because no one else wants to do it, or everyone else is shy by the microphone. So here I go, hey everybody, here, okay, you all ready for the next song here?
Well, and we had one show where we told the sound guy beforehand as well. We're like, okay, like Carter will have a microphone as well. And we talked between every song. And the guy kept shutting it off on him. and then walking away from the table.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it screwed the whole dynamic over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like our show, like kind of sort of fell apart in between the songs.
Yeah.
In the sound guy's head, he's going, "Ha! I finally got that drummer back."
Yeah.
Exactly.
It wasn't you, just some drummer like did something to him like
Yeah.
not too long ago, and he's like, "I'm gonna show all.
I'm going to
drummers
show
what the
all
fuck's
drummers
up."
what's up. Yeah.
You don't have a voice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't sing like in any of the songs either. Like I don't do harmonies or backing vocals or anything.
So he was
like
probably
that.
just
So
listening to the song, being like, "What the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, why does he have a
need mic?"
microphone? Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Even
So
after we
yeah.
explicitly said like, okay, he'll be talking between every song, right? So so like with that, right? It's not just me as a frontman, right? It is a 2-part frontman deal, right? So
Yeah.
but
And I can tell you guys definitely have a lot of chemistry and cohesion bouncing off each other. Sounds like someone knows someone soda too from earlier, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Tell us a bit about the song. I guess I should stop trying to keep pushing it forward. We should actually listen to it, and then we'll move on even more down throughout the rest of this episode. Tell us a bit about it.
go for it.
Yeah, sure. Well, we actually wrote the lyrics to this song back in high school. I can't remember how the idea came up, but we were like, let's just write a fun song that like has no like personal meaning or anything. It's just fun to listen to.
Just
And
a
it,
joke song. I think we kind of came about it just as it's just like it's when you're trying to create the melody and you're throwing in random words, and then
Yeah,
just like
there's
the
something
one
like that.
line
Yeah.
kind of came up, and it's like, fuck, that's what we should write about because that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
So the song is called My Ex-Girlfriend, and we get the question all the time if it's actually about a girl. And if you listen to it, like the lyrics of the song, there's no possible way that it could be a real story. So no, it's not about anybody specifically. At least I hope not.
At
Yeah.
this point, all our ex-girlfriends would be over 18 for sure.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's just a fun song about a guy who's trying to get over a girl, but finds her on a computer screen during a night alone. And there's a cool riff on it, and the drums are loud as they should be. And yeah, it's just it's been a long time coming, and so like we wrote the lyrics, and then we just played it a whole bunch, and we reordered it, and we're like, oh, we need another chorus here. Oh, let's put in a bridge. Oh, we don't need a bridge. Oh, let's put the bridge back in. Doesn't need a solo. And eventually we just said, fuck it, let's just record it, and then whatever happens, like that's gonna be how the song's gonna be. So.
And that was a bit of an interesting way we wrote it as well, because a lot of songs normally will start with like a chorus or a first verse or a riff or something like that. And that song actually started with the bridge, and that's still one of the to me personally, that's still one of my best. That's my best example of writing, actually, just like poetically for some reason, even though it is one of the most probably vulgar things I've ever wrote.
Yeah.
But, and like it's not like very explicit or anything like that, but it's just like you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that was
Very
actually
visual.
a big debate that we had. Yeah, very visual. That was
very
a debate
visual.
we had when we were sending it to the distributor, was if it needs to have explicit on it, because we don't swear in it, but it's all
there's
about
no
sex
swear or
and
explicit
stuff
words,
like that.
right? But it just paints that
Panic
picture
at the
very
Disco
clean.
got away with like one fucking no sticker back in 06. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys are good.
Yeah,
And a
we'll be
lot
okay.
of that record is wow, there's a lot of innuendo in that record, actually going back to a few
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, there's even there's a joke I had seen about that. I don't remember who the guitarist was or that, but like for Panic at the time.
Yeah.
But it was like it's just like a meme or whatever of like, do we really need to like have an innuendo in this song? And then it's like Brendan searching up a synonym for this word, and he's like, oh well, I've already done it.
Yeah. No, I know. That's wicked. Just because I'm horrible with remembering, is it Reckless Renegade or Reckless Renegades?
Renegade.
Renegade?
singular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Singular. All right. Well, before I say this, I was going to say there's one thing that it's kind of funny. You guys kind of remind me a bit of Mahoney, just in what you were saying about like the acoustic sets and the two-piece and the banter and all that. It's like, if you're from Medicine Hat and you've heard of Mahoney, that's kind of what sold them. It was like playing all the covers and having Mahoney Oki. That was really, that helped. But it was that banter and that chemistry between the two. And it's still, I can't even say it right now. It's actually really awesome to see that you guys are kind of really honing in and harnessing on that.
Thank you.
No problem. So this is Reckless Renegade. What is the song called again?
The song is called My Ex-Girlfriend.
All right. Well, here is My Ex-Girlfriend. Enjoy.
I was home alone with nothing to do, so I searched some porn and that's when I found you. from 9 to 5. Now your body is all online. But it used to be only mine. My ex-girlfriend was a superstar in the backseat of my car. She took her skills just a little too far. Now my ex-girlfriend is a porn star. She was crazy in bed. She gave me great head. Was always pulling me by a thread. Now she's on my PC. She's looking up at me. With someone else in her mouth instead. My ex-girlfriend was a superstar in the backseat of my car. She took her skills just a little too far. Now my ex-girlfriend, oh, my ex-girlfriend was a superstar in the backseat of my car. She took her skills just a little too far. Now my ex-girlfriend, oh, now my ex-girlfriend is a porn star.
Oh, cat's back.
And my cat has taken my chair while I was enjoying my ex-girlfriend. Mm.
So many innuendos with this song.
Oh, it's so good. Well, we're going to take a shift from talking about what you guys have been up to for a few minutes and let Matt wet his whistle and tell us about the wonderful occurrences that have been happening lately.
I did my whistle, apparently.
How you doing?
Confused about you talking about your ex-girlfriend.
No, I was talking about, no, well, now the innuendo is broken.
Like the icebreaker of that.
Which ex-girlfriend are we talking about? Mwah!
Don't wave your cat at me like it's a ghost from Mario. I'll just look away from it then.
I'm actually really glad that we're filming this episode. Speaking of which, if you are listening to this on Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, or on Cat and Evan's Metal Litter Box, know that I will actually be uploading a video version of this episode on my personal YouTube channel. I want to aim to say within a week of the audio airing, but we're going to air on the side of maybe longer than that. We'll see how long it takes. I just realized how overzealous I may be in my thought process behind doing this right now. But I'm going to try.
Like a hamster on a cocaine wheel.
Oh, you know it. Oh, you fucking know it.
Doesn't stop. So it dies.
Even then, it goes on like the Energizer Bunny.
Kind of just explodes like a dead star.
Anyway, Matt, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Waiting for Nate.
I'm done. I got my shut up thing in my hand right now.
Light that shut up. Anyways, on episode 47, damn, that's a lot of episodes, don't talk. Anyways, on this episode, everyone's replaceable. Hayden Turno's Eric Rutan to fill in for Cannibal Corpse's guitarist Pat O'Brien, who was arrested back in December.
Is that the one that went crazy briefly?
Yeah, that's the Florida man of death metal now.
See, I've only heard...
See, other Nate gets it. And he doesn't even know what this is about, but the word Florida man, my God, he is a great hero. If people, you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on your Google search Florida man, and just go on the news.
You're all going to have a
You're
good
welcome.
time.
Just Florida in general. Any like headline from there.
You see, I really want to really twist it up, and I once typed in Michigan man.
Wow.
I think I got something about a moose.
Yep.
That was the highlight.
I thought you might have gotten the Michelin man.
Ah, that would have been funny.
Yeah, it was either that or Montana, but it was like moose runs over someone or something of that.
But straight up, Florida, man. I know
Man.
Australia has some crazy fucking creatures, but you got
And
giant
people.
reptiles from the prehistoric age just chilling on your golf courses. Like, man, I don't care. Does that turn a par 5 into a par 8 due to loss of limb? Like, I'm very curious about how the rules change.
That's why you practice golf one arm.
Yeah. Oh man,
I practice both arms.
Yeah. And you don't go alone to fetch your ball.
Yeah.
Never go alone. Anyway, please continue, Matt.
Rumor has that Ellen will harass you if you try grabbing your golf balls.
And she'll just keep swimming after.
She'll laugh at you too.
Marbles. Stop being marbles. It's like, you named me this. This is all I can be.
Absolute shit chaos. But
Look at
cute.
that face.
Can't resist the
You
face.
know what? Come here for a second. No one is allowed. Let go of him. No one can resist the face.
Anyways, back to Corpse.
Camera one.
Anyway, back to Death Metal Florida Man.
I had to show off the
I hope there's cat hair in your ball now. Where there's a good chance because she's like a dust cloud. A fur.
Like that.
Oh, look, a ball. Oh, God, the balls. My God, it's like
I'm a vacuum in here after we're
my God,
done.
Nate has turned his hands into a snowstorm.
You know, if I brush her, I could probably grow my beard a bit more.
You know, you should probably.
I can look like Nate. The old Nate can look like the young Nate.
Who are you? You, but weaker. Weak ass cat beard.
Sad cat whiskers.
Nate, shut up.
Just continue telling us stories.
You're expired.
Like milk.
No, like a Christmas orange now. Anyways, back to Florida where there is no Christmas oranges because fuck snow. As probably expected among Cannibal Corpse fans to guess that it would be the guess that the band would announce that the guitarist Pat O'Brien would not be joining the Cannibal Corpse on their upcoming tours.
No.
I know I said Cannibal Corpse a lot in that sentence.
I didn't know. I'm shocked that he's not going to go on tour after all that crazy shit went down.
Yeah, he's going to be missing out as Cannibal Corpse is touring with Disciple Magazine with Morbid Angel and Slayer's Farewell Tour. Croft Part 3.
I think that kind of would suck for him, actually. If Slayer's Farewell Tour, I know I'm just interjecting briefly, but that would
Part
suck.
3.
No, I'm done now. I just wanted to say that.
I know, I wanted to throw in my little cough. Part 3. Part 3 of the Farewell North American
such
Tour.
a sarcastic douche about him not being able to go play on tour and then being like, oh, Slayer's Farewell Tour. Oh, well, that kind of does suck for Cannibal Corpse.
Don't worry. No one's Slayer right now. They'll have another. Like I said, North American Farewell Tour, Part 3.
Oh, that's what the cough was. I thought it was on my interruption.
No, that's a Part 5 right now. Anyways, the famous death metal band, originally from Buffalo but moved to Florida, good choice, has announced that Hate Eternal's Eric Rutan will fill in for O'Brien's position while the guitars tends to personal issues, quote unquote. Rutan is an excellent choice as he was the producer of 4 of Cannibal Corpse's albums. 2006's Kill, 2009's Resurrection Plague, 2012's Torture, and the latest album, 2017's Red Before Black.
I was just going to ask what albums he was on. I have not heard any of those, but then again...
Producer.
Oh, producer still. That's a huge... The producer has a huge...
So he
play in
knows...
things
But he knows the material well, as you would probably know from experience as well.
Actually, yes. Let me refrain that.
Cough,
the
cough, if not
producer
better.
occasionally has a huge hand in things. Other times, he just was given the credit. Sometimes the producer doesn't do jack shit. I'll be completely honest with you. Other times, the producer's doing a lot of work.
And then you got Rick Rubin, who just lounges on the couch, just like telling Metallica louder.
Does that come up every episode now, or are we just going to reference Death Magnetic's shit master every episode?
I'm more swinging to Rick Rubin on the couch, but yes. Because I see how that man produces Black Sabbath's 13 and Metallica, and he's just lounging on the couch with a microphone saying, okay, a little less snare, your snare shit there, Lars.
No.
I feel like they just have it on a sample board at that point. He doesn't even have to talk anymore. He just...
Again.
Basically.
You suck. Aren't you supposed to be motivating? I am. This is thrash
What's that
metal.
8-button soundboard?
You're horrible.
Rick
Do it
Rubin?
again. I'm helping them, don't you see?
This is how I make them involved. This is how you get Eminem, my friends.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, he did.
Yes, I forgot. I didn't mind the Rick Rubin collab with them. That was actually really cool.
I like him because he likes his artists to kind of like expand and think outside the box.
The hip hop community was not a fan of that record. They were like, "What the fuck are you doing working with Rick Rubin? We get he's legendary, but this is not rock and this is not metal."
Bad.
Anyway,
Where was I? Yes.
We talked about him producing 4 of the records.
Exactly. Eric Rutan from Hate Eternal.
Eric Rutan?
Rutan.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Rutan. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew the last name because, yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a harsh sounding T, but it's
as long as it's not Rutan, because that was what I heard the first time. I was like, what? No, he can't be related to Victor. That'd be ridiculous. Victor Wooten related to someone in the death metal scene. Next thing you know, Victor Wooten's playing extreme death grind on a record, and you're like,
well,
I mean, it was calm.
I mean, Nicolas Cage has a son who was in a extreme black metal bands.
Yeah, but that's what's expected of Nicolas Cage's son.
No, nothing is ever expected from Nicolas Cage in the first place, so don't go assuming that's expected for his son either.
He's like the heavy metal actor of acting, though. Turn everything up to 11. We've just watched a theory on our dissection of this.
No, he's more of like the tool equivalent of like actors, you know. It's too deep.
Oh, so he's the Maynard of acting.
Yeah.
That works. Like, we're talking Lollapalooza.
But he gives more of a shit and he pumps
Pink
out.
Leotard Maynard.
Except like him, he pumps out a lot more stuff.
So we're talking like Pink Leotard Maynard from like 93, singing sober, like all over the place.
Plus that in the police riot suit.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that is totally Nick Cage.
Not to mention the dual mics. We can't forget that.
This is how off topic we get sometimes.
That sounds like that's the band practice too.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like any band practice. Go. Where was I again? Yes, Rick Rutan. After Nate figure out the name,
I'm sorry.
It's going to be on tour for Cannibal Corpse as their old guitarist Pat O'Brien is going through some personal. What was it again? What's the quote again? Tends to personal issues, and some backstory on that was personal issues that Pat is going through. In December, Pat O'Brien was arrested and charged with burglary and an occupied dwelling where he held down one of the occupants, and was reported that O'Brien was muttering about "they're going to take me" and the rapture, quote unquote.
I didn't know about the burglary. Everything else I knew, and just it's a situation, and you can go at it in a few ways.
I guess burglary is the wrong terminology. More of a house invasion since he didn't take anything.
Because I heard he had like broken into or dove through their house window or door.
Mm-hmm.
Was like acting really odd and kind of in a sense his flight mentality had kicked in, and he was in that like trying to get into a corner, protect yourself, run away. So that leads me to think like, okay, either he was on something, he was drugged, or he had an episode of some kind due to maybe a history of some things. But still, like, feel kind of bad for the guy, because it's one thing to have that happen. It's another for it to be international news and publicized everywhere, especially when you're like in Cannibal Corpse, because that's like the one death grind band everyone knows thanks to Jim Carrey.
Death metal.
Yeah, they're kind of like the harbingers of grind metal as well for their time.
They're still the good old slap, but that's only like the third of the hit of this intensity.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if this might change it.
It's getting intense.
This is where it really kicks up into shifting to third gear, maybe even fourth.
Oh, okay.
After that, when police found him, he was hiding near a fence outside the house that he was in. He would probably charge at the police with a knife, but had to been put down with a taser.
I knew that too.
If that's not metal, I don't know what is.
Yeah, like that's
just death metal as fuck.
If this happened in like 91, man, their record sales would be through the fucking roof right now with the Norwegian black metal scene.
Especially with their last record's artwork looking like it's just a crackhead just slashing at the world with
their
blood.
Artwork's always been iconic for being like some of the most border pushing shit.
Germany hates it.
Oh yeah, no, Merkel's been heavily. Oh man.
Anyways, God bless Butcher Booth at birth. While this was going on, authorities were reportedly called to O'Brien's home in Northdale, Florida, when it caught fire with exploding ammunition inside.
Oh, that's right. His house blew up. I forgot about that.
Best part is because of the ammunition, it kept blowing up.
So that's the thing that messed with me, because if his house was on fire and that happened, this is where my thought process went. Like, what happened? Did he set the fire himself because he was on something? Did someone try to fuck with him? Because
So many questions,
Yeah,
I know,
it's just-
right? This is like,
listening to like getting all that, it's like, okay, well, it could have been one or the other. Oh, and then his house was on fire and blew up due to all the ammunition in his house. Well, that just got suspicious.
this feels like a prologue for a Stephen King novel, if you ask me. Not the prologue, after the prologue,
just-
when
it's
shit
just-
kind of gets a little cray-cray.
I get the stockpile of arms. I'm just curious about how the fire started, really.
Whoa.
I just want to know, like, did he drop a cigarette and things just went poof when he went crazy? Or, like, what the fuck
This might
happened?
answer your question a little bit. It was later revealed to be from a military grade of flamethrowers and more likely than 80 firearms and thousands of rounds of ammunition.
Okay, so was he using the flamethrower, though?
He said most posts, so it's hard to say. And interesting fact, folks, you're allowed to have a military-graded flamethrower in Florida, but you're not allowed to have a sawed-off shotgun.
And Elon Musk had to market his flamethrower as not a flamethrower, even though it truly is not a flamethrower.
Because really, he can. Not because he had to, because he can. He didn't have to bring a car out in space, but he did.
So what
because he can.
What I've learned from this, Florida, you're very weird.
Even in metal. I
Yeah,
mean, the only like
That caught me off guard.
Chuck Shoulder is like the only example of like Florida and metal. It's like this guy's normal. He has a real Floridan accent, but he's normal.
Only a death metal band in Florida could have this happen to them. I can't really think, like, I've heard of church burnings. That hasn't really been a thing since the 90s, thank God, because that's just a little too over the top. Just
weird
gonna
flex.
say.
Weird flex.
Weird flex, yes. That is a very
We're really weird flex Norway. Those were architect buttes, but anyways.
but you know, over the past, we'll say 15 years, I like to say metal as a whole, when it comes down to culturally in the public eye, it's calmed down quite a bit. It's picked up dramatically on the musical end, especially when you have bands like Infinite Annihilator.
But you mean as media wise, it's kind of
We're not. It's not like the
Not like the
80s
80s,
and
like,
the 90s where you were trying to push off this really
Decenter.
tough, or even the early 2000s with new metal. When you look at Limp Bizkit and how they were still like feuding with Slipknot and Marilyn Manson and all this shit. Like, you still have Manson causing his shit getting
Slipknot
knocked out at a
Mushroom Head
Lethbridge
feud.
Denny's. You still have like some stupid shit. But overall, when you look at metal as a whole, we're not like that giant headline grabbing, fucking with society, doing really grotesque, fucked up shit. Usually it's like, oh, someone's offended by our music video again. What else is new?
fuck. Even Guns N' Roses got back together for the money.
I'm actually really happy for that, just for the sake of Axl might lose some weight going on tour again.
Hear that, Vince? You're next.
Might. And honestly,
Watching
I've never been a
hamster.
huge GNR fan, but I've always loved Appetite for Destruction. There's something about that record that just has an energy to it. And I haven't heard the remaster yet, but I think it says something that they, 30 years into the career, were finally able to put their petty bullshit aside and just get back to doing what made them great to begin with. Because I'm sorry, no one gave a fuck about Chinese democracy. Slash has been doing fantastic with Miles Kennedy, but it's not the same as having him next to Axl, especially when everyone compares Miles Kennedy to Axl Rose in Slash's solo music, being like, oh, well, no wonder you chose this dude. He can hit the same register as the other dude you really like.
I did go to that show in Edmonton, actually, from that tour.
How was
And
it?
It was an awesome show. And I think because it was at what's the stadium there in Edmonton?
Wrexham Place?
No,
No, the new
it
one.
was the football stadium.
Oh.
Commonwealth. Yeah. Okay, that is what I thought it was. Yeah, I think we were maybe like 2 sections off from there on it would be stage right. Yeah, it was awesome. Like the setup and the sound and everything like that. It was fantastic.
That's amazing. A lot of people will not agree with me. I would love to hear AC/DC continue on with Axl Rose and Angus Young, just because at this point they're a novelty act, and I think Axl brings the best of Bon and the best of Brian, and Angus is going to die on stage in that uniform playing that guitar. That's how he wants to go out.
Like with Axl Rose joining AC/DC, for me, at first it seemed like, really, you're mixing that together? Like it almost seems like it's like, okay, like, yeah, you have two of the biggest bands in the world, right? But like, like should you cross them over?
Yeah.
Then actually hearing Axl like sing AC/DC, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm for this actually.
Yeah, you get what I mean? It's like you're getting that soulful personality that Bon Scott had, like all that whimsy and all that slyness and all the innuendo.
Yeah.
And then you had Brian Johnson's grit kind of in his nasally tone and how Axl can hit those notes and still give off a bit of grit and rasp in his voice. And he's like the perfect vocalist to go into that project at the tail end of it. And I think they're AC/DC, if they do continue on, they'll be a great legacy act just for that sake. The fact that Angus is the last standing member of that band, I think.
Well, and that's who everyone knows is Angus Young in the schoolboy outfit and the SG with the leg kick going down the stage.
The seizures while doing a guitar solo.
Yeah.
It's actually really funny.
Like that's like you think of like early rock and roll, you think AC/DC.
Oh, rock and roll singer, high voltage, TNT. It's funny.
They're staples at everything, be it sporting events or like the songs between shows or anything.
As 90s
It's
kids,
everywhere.
Thunderstruck. We grew up with that just randomly. Like we knew AC/DC before we knew who AC/DC was.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like, Oh, I remember playing like hockey down in the basement with my cousins or that, right? And like, you know, you'd like pretend to be like the NHL players and everything like that, right? And what's our intro song before we go onto the ice, right? We're playing Thunderstruck. So
the fans of AC/DC know Angus, but the real hardcore fans worship Malcolm.
yeah.
Which is like, I look at guys like Scotty, and you notice that especially when Malcolm passed away. No one really knew how big of an influence he had on, especially guitarists of that generation.
Actually, it kind of comes back to when we were talking about like that chemistry between like two. That was between the two of them.
For sure.
There was actually, I can't remember what it was. It was another, I listened to way too many podcasts, but they were talking about Bon Scott and how there might have been a brief cover up for his death just to make it just on a PR scale, because at that time AC/DC was the biggest thing in the world, having their vocalists go out the way they did and all that. And there's also a huge rumor that a lot of Back in Black was actually written by Bon before he passed, because a lot of the
Hear it in it. Have a Drink on Me is a good example.
You Shook Me All Night Long is the biggest example. It's like you hear Brian singing, you're like, it flows, but you can hear Bon's kind of like rhythm and vibe, and again the innuendo. Nothing against
the spirit of it.
Yeah, nothing against
Making
Brian.
kind of like, sorry to cut you off,
it's all
but
good.
karma, my friends.
Yeah,
But kind of like, I'm not done yet.
Yeah. Even in death, I'm gonna be on the best record you've ever made.
I feel like Let It Be Rock would be like the first Brian Johnson album, because from like start to finish, like he was kind of always like built into the band and like got used to everything.
Yeah, and for me, like I didn't really. There's only one Brian Johnson record, because if we look at Back in Black as kind of like the transition between the two and as a conglomeration of both vocalists, one in spirit, one in actuality. The main Brian Johnson record for me is Razor's Edge.
Razor's Edge, and actually like a hidden gem would be actually Flick of the Switch.
Flick of the Switch is actually ironically really good.
It is
It's
actually.
like for Lost, like
Exactly, hidden gem. It's a pretty solid record.
But like to me, like he never really hit the same stride as Bon when it came to his lyrical prowess. There's something like I can listen. I can't so much do it anymore just because it's like the bagpipes are really heavy on the ears after a while. But the High Voltage record, their debut, man. Like you're listening, going from rock and roll singer to like Long Way to the Top, TNT,
The bluesy, the
High
Jack.
Voltage, the Jack, even for like a boring drawl like dun dun dun
Livewire.
dun.
Am I thinking in Livewire, or is that in Motley Crue
Livewire's
song?
on there too. Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's so much energy and prowess. I don't feel like there's been a single AC/DC record with Brian that's hit as hard as anything with Bon when it comes to full energy. I feel they heavily compensated with Angus. I feel his soloing and his guitar playing got a lot, not flashier, but showier. And it definitely kind of suited like an AC/DC vibe after a while. But the vocals, it didn't have like those like random Bon Scott ad-libs that
like
really did transition from spots.
I felt like the closest maybe they got was like Black Ice.
Stiff Upper Lip, actually, for me.
That was I can agree with that one too.
Black Ice was kind of like their last, like, they could have ended there
It could have.
and everyone would have been happy. They could have released Black Ice and not even toured, just been like, we're pulling a Priest, releasing an album, not touring on it, we're just putting this out there. And I think that could have been, I think if there was ever a point where AC/DC was going to stop before everyone started dying off, that would have been it. But before we've talked a lot about AC/DC and this random thing going from Cannibal Corpse, going from death metal to classic rock. It's fantastic. What are we about to listen to? Because this is now going to go on the complete opposite spectrum of talking about like classic rock bands.
Of course, we're going to hear Angus Young talking about his first time experiencing drinking chocolate milk back in the 70s.
I thought we were going to listen to Voltang.
No, we are going to listen to Voltang, but just picture that while listening to this song.
Okay.
Yes, my folks, we are going to be listening to Voltang. They are from Hamilton, Ontario. They are a combination of rock, hardcore, and punk metal, and also, as they like to call it, raunch and roll. It's a tasty sound.
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk, indeed. This is from their 2016 full-length album, Bad Sounds. This song is called Slaughterhouse of Blues. You can find this on Bandcamp, which is voltang.bandcamp.com. And also, their next upcoming show is on April 19th in Hamilton, Ontario, where they will be opening up for Cancer Bats, who will be embarking on The Sparks That Move East Coast Canadian tour with Dead Quiet, Diner Drugs, Heart Attack Kids, and Deep Fryer. Nice. And again, this is Slaughterhouse of Blues from Voltang.
That was Voltang. Where are they from again? They're from Nanaimo, right?
Hamilton,
Hamilton, cool.
Ontario.
Before we move
Opposite
on,
side of the country.
yeah, complete opposite side. My bad.
Excellent, Nate.
Usually we have a lot of like West Coast stuff on here. I'm always amazed when we get some from the East or occasionally. Wait, I think we still have that one Finnish band that we. If you were listening to this and you sent me stuff from Finland or across the pond there, I apologize. I just remember that you sent something back in December. It slightly got buried because we were doing some changing with our email server, and you will get aired in a future episode. I am so sorry. That literally just came to mind while I was about to say Reckless Renegade can be streamed on a bunch of platforms. We didn't mention that before we aired their song, but you can find them on Napster, Pandora, Tidal, Amazon, Spotify, Google Play, and Apple Music. So
We got it on everything.
it's smart. That is actually, I think, the next thing I'm going to dive into for my tips and tricks series. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but on top of my cover videos that I do on my personal channel, I was doing a tips and tricks series on my studio channel.
Yeah, I have seen it.
Yeah, and then I
Like I know of them.
Okay. I shifted everything to my main channel, and I killed the Octave Studios YouTube channel because it's too much running two things. I'm like, I got 2 Instagrams, 2 YouTube channels, but you know what? Where can I just start putting everything in one thing? So I'm doing that, and the last one I did was that I released this week was on like branding and preparing for your release. That thing no one really wants to think about, and it's that thing that if you kind of think about it at first, it's a lot easier down the line. Just like, what are we about? What do we do? What's our band like? Just the simple things. Once you get what your band's about and how you should kind of put yourself off as a unit, it's a lot easier to just do that naturally versus going for a release and being like, shit, what's our theme for our music video going to be? What kind of vibe do we want to put off? What kind of music do we even play? Well,
I think that's something that we talked about right away, actually. Like, even when we were discussing a name change, it's like, okay, we have to also like come up with something that does kind of match what we're doing now. So, because like, don't get me wrong, Sideshow was like an all right name. We also made it back in grade 10. So like we felt a bit of a need for change because we had just grown a lot overall, and just like the music had changed a little bit too, right? So.
Yeah, it's like For Life Unburdened. Some people, or everyone outside of Medicine Hat, probably didn't know they were once known as Breaking Affliction.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. And if that doesn't scream high school band, I don't know what else does. Straight up MMA fight shirt right there.
Well, and like we tried to make it different too, because how did we come up with? Oh, that original name came up with, we were going through McDonald's drive-thru one time, and we were both, for whatever reason, like, we were all just super hyper, like, during, like, lunchtime or that. And it was just like, oh, we're like a circus sideshow. That's it! And it was like, years down the line, you're thinking, no, that wasn't it. But it was like, like, sideshow was one word, and it was SYDE.
Yeah, whoever came up with that brilliant idea.
And that was just so we could get into like a contest. I think it was just like, okay, we need a quick band name, and that's what it was. So wasn't much thought put into it. So it was nice to actually be able to sit back and be like, hey, what do we actually want to make a brand like with?
Yeah, that's smart.
We kind of dived into like the color scheme and stuff too. Like the guitars that you wrote most of the tracks on were blue and like kind of a pinky red, sort of neon colors. So that's kind of been like our color scheme for.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm really prone to neon, like greens and purples. I've noticed.
I love the neon scheme. It's just flashy and it looks good.
You can blend it with anything and it pops out, and I love it. And it's funny. Speaking of names, the band I'm currently in, ironically, the guys that are currently in it came in when the band name had already been established. But prior to that, we were known as Chemicade, just because it was a name from like the old guitarist. That he came up in high school that he wanted to use, and before I joined, they were like, okay, fuck it, and like we need a name, so we'll use that. And then I came in, and we went from like this alt rock to the style of metal we play now because the guy left because he didn't practice, he didn't want to learn anything, and it just turned to a point where it wasn't working. And we're like, okay, we need a new name. So for months we're trying to think of something else, and then randomly I just look at my book collection. There's it sitting there. I'm like, Deadlights. Is there any? Shawn, what? Deadlights. Huh? Deadlights. Fuck yeah. Does anyone else have it? Let me check. There's a band in the UK, but that doesn't matter. All right, we're good.
Well, that was the same with us too. Like when we came up with we're like, oh, okay, like Reckless Renegade. That sounds like something you could build off of. And we had to take a look, and there was one Twitter handle that had it. but it was like their last post was in like 2014, and they had 3 posts.
And their entire description was like, yeah, we might make a band someday. If we do, it'll be called Reckless Renegade. And we're like, well, you're not a band, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
See, I looked
Snagged it.
up Deadlights UK, and the first few months, nothing. There had been anything for years, and then when we started getting shit out and started like moving, getting ready to play shows, then they started to update their shit. I'm like, okay, well, it looks like we actually might have some competition down the line if
weird
things
flex
pick up.
there, UK lights.
Well, it's like I'm personally not attached to a name just on the simple fact of it has to work in your area and you have to build it. But if you get to a point where you're thinking like super large, like large scale, like you're about to go to like a major label, for instance, if you get that like one and off shot, your name's probably going to change when you get to that point because they're going to think of a different way to market you. Bullet for My Valentine wasn't Bullet for My Valentine. There was something else until they hit their major label. So I've come to the consensus that you put as much thought into a name as you can to make sure it works for your project and that you can like properly promote it, but don't droll for a fucking year trying to think of the perfect thing. It's 2019 and we all have the internet. It's really easy for...
Yeah, at this point, band names are like your Hotmail account.
Yeah.
Like trying to find something new, right? And it's like, oh, I got this. And then you have to add like 5 digits on the end of it.
I'm still waiting for Black Sabbath 2.
Yeah. But,
Can you hear it? It's Sack Sabbath. Sack Wild.
But yeah, no, like you can like going off with like the competition on a name type thing. I remember watching an interview, and I guess there was a band overseas also called Blink at the same time that Blink-182 was just called Blink. Yeah. And they had gotten a call from management or whatever, and they're like, you have to change the name, and like, okay, you have this time to do it. Then it's like it got to like the last phone call, and I guess that management group was just like, okay, we need a name right now or we're suing the crap out of you. And they're like, 182. And that's just how like the number got onto it. Like there is no significant meaning to the number. It's just okay, we can keep the name Blink in there.
Yeah. Billy Talent was Pez before Pez started to sue them. Yeah, but they got signed and they're like, oh, by the way, Pez wants to sue you because you're using their name. Ah, shit, we need a new name. Well, we're going to quickly, I guess, dive into this. If it is indeed the right day of release, it should be February 2nd, which means I just released a new music video for a track that I'd been teasing for a while. And this goes into the patience thing I was talking about. I originally wanted to release this at the start of January. It's now the start of February. I had to put a lot of extra work in just making sure it was right from the video to the mix. Because I'll be honest, up until the 20th, my low end was right fucked. Like, I did not have that under control. And I had to, if you don't take the time to fester on some stuff, you won't figure it out. And you have to take the time to take breaks away from things and properly promote it and work on it. So that's my little bit of tidbit for you guys out there. If you're working on music, excuse me, so I don't get cut off by my song here. But,
Oh.
Yes.
oh yes, it's not just me now.
Fuck you, Nathaniel Bohnet.
If you are working on stuff and you're taking the single mentality that I've kind of been talking about recently, still put in the work to make sure you're putting out some quality stuff and making sure you're not just releasing stuff for the sake of stroking your own ego. The people that support you, they'll support you anyway. No matter what you release, if they already like what you're doing, they're not going to follow you blindly. They'll still criticize once in a while, but they're going to support you no matter what. If you really want to wow them and maybe bring in more people, you got to put in that little bit of extra work to just make sure that you're releasing yourself at your best. You don't have to be perfect, but you at least want to be proud of what you're putting out and not look back on it a week later being like, oh, if I'd only taken like 2 extra days to properly track this solo, or just took a week away from a mix and then went back at it to properly assess it. Like, if you don't give your time,
Sit on it.
Yeah, give yourself some time to really sit on something and not fester on it, but let it kind of breathe and then come back to it with a fresh mindset. And then you'll really know what's going on.
Your song breathe though.
Uh-huh. We're almost there. Last little tidbit here. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you're working on something, after a certain amount of time, you're going to have worked on that song or album or whatever for a lot of time in a short span of time. So it's going to be a lot of banked hours over like a week or a month or a weekend, whatever. So you're going to be sick of that. So you need to give yourself a break to be able to come into it with a fresh mindset, fresh eyes, fresh ears, and a fresh perspective on it, or else you might make decisions that are more harmful to you in the long run than or maybe just that harm the track or harm your release over just pushing stuff out at your best. Without further ado, this is my new solo track. There's a video for it out on
So
Facebook
close.
and on YouTube. You can stream it on Spotify and Google Play. This is Noose featuring Nate Trash, Pete Mercer, and Shawn Krushel. Oh boy, well that was my new solo track. I figured if I'm gonna preach about singles, I might as well nut up or shut up and start doing it myself. So I had my buddy Nate come down one weekend or one day in early December, and he and Pete sat in here and they were actually just shooting the shit for like 45 minutes, and I was riffing around after Nate said, I want something that has like this type of feel, like these bands. I'm like, I don't listen to those bands, but I think I know what you want. Let's do it. And then after about 45 minutes, I finally went, hey guys, I got the first 3 riffs and drums. And they're like, wait, what? You've been writing? And then we got a bunch of the vocals done. And then Christmas Eve, I drove to Calgary, picked up my sister, picked up Nate, drove back here, dropped him off at his parents for dinner, went to my grandparents for dinner, picked him back up at 8 o'clock, and had all of our vocals tracked, all of our video segments for him, Pete, and myself on the vocal end tracked, and him home right at midnight so that Mama Trash could have his boy home for Christmas.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was a long day. He was sitting there at like 9:30, like, so my mom wants to know if I can be like home by 10. I'm like, I'll be honest, if this goes like long, we might be here till 3. if we bust ass, I might be able to have you home by midnight.
Yeah.
And you just kind of saw him like perk up, like, all right,
Let's do it.
let's do it. We took some shots. I didn't even use any of the ones we took while he was actually recording vocals, but I took some shots then, and then I explained like our video concept with them, and he's like, okay, just so you know, I've never done this before. Like, okay, cool, just stay in this box. Camera's here. Either lip sync or scream along, whatever works better. I'm just gonna scream along. All right, cool. And you'll actually, if you watch the video, see his eyes are closed most of the time, but his like face forward at the camera, so he looks really like menacing the entire time. Like, you know what? It works. It works. It's your first video.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you guys have been working on. You got an album coming out, or you're working on your album. Yeah. Any rough idea of when you're thinking you might have that ready?
We're hoping by the end of this year. I know the original thought was to be in February here, but you know, unfortunately, other life does take in effect. Like especially when you're going to school for
definitely.
music, that takes over.
Yeah.
But
And we also don't want to rush it. We want to put out like our best possible work and all that.
Definitely.
yeah. And we don't want to pull the thing of, oh, it's going to be out this day, and then it's not quite there or that sort of thing, and then be like, okay, sorry, we have to push it. We want to make sure it's ready and then be able to sit on it and then give it to everybody.
Yes. Tip for bands: do not set release dates until you have masters in hand. Do not do that thing where you're in the studio and you're like, yeah, everyone, we're in the studio. It's January. Album's going to be out April. And then March comes along. You still don't have anything. And June comes along and everyone's like, what the fuck?
Then September becomes the release.
Tell people you're working on stuff. Think of ways to keep promoting. And then while you have the stuff or you're waiting on stuff, think of other stuff you can do to keep people interested in what you're doing, whether that's shows, stupid videos. Instagram is a handy fucking tool. Everyone has it.
We love to use our Instagram.
Yeah.
And like we do the stupid videos on it. And whatnot,
Instagram stories are quite possibly the best idea ever.
Yeah.
They are.
You got like 15 seconds or whatever, and you can make it whatever you want. So
I love it. I wish Cesar wasn't so camera shy, because he's very like, yeah. So I'm like, come on, we got to do something. Fuck off. I'm like, God damn it, we need to promote ourselves. We can't be these brooding types. Like this is
Buckethead can.
Yeah, but we're a band of nerds that write music about wrestlers, Stephen King books, and like just like random shit. Like some of it's like in thought. Like I have one song that's about the internal concept of 11/22/63. There was actually a miniseries that James Franco starred in about it as well, but guy finds a wormhole, takes him back to a certain time point, and then he tries to stop the Kennedy assassination. And the overall premise is time doesn't want to be changed, and it'll do everything in its power.
I kind of want to watch this now.
It's really good. James Franco did a great job on it, and the book itself is a great read. So I kind of like when the concept of like time being against you, and how in the end, you can't. No matter what you do, you can't change what time has already deemed as, I guess, concrete. The change in the past doesn't work, because who knows what repercussions you'll get. What happens if you do stop the Kennedy assassination? What repercussions come of that? And so I really dug that concept. We have a song called Monster Among Men, which is just about Braun Strowman. He's a monster wrestler, and I just fucking love watching him, especially when he's like 6'6", like huge, but he's athletic as fuck. So he can actually has this one spot where he'll run the outside of the ring chasing down his opponent and just clothesline the living piss out of the dude, and he'll fucking flip it. It's awesome. I love it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say that's one thing I love to see in bands is when it's not just the same thing every time, be it musically or lyrically, right? You have like a good mix in there of like you can have the really funny songs, like just thinking of example like Bowling for Soup, right? Oh my God. You had like all
High School
the
Never
really
Ends, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like High School Never Ends, or like Running from Your Dad type deal, right? Like you have those really funny songs, right? But then they can have like the really like personal and serious ones like Turbulence and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they're like either way, it's just fantastic though, and there's always a little bit of something new to it each time you come, but it's familiar at the same time.
There's something for everyone that way too. Yeah.
Exactly. It's funny. Like we've changed the drum beats up completely with the drummer leaving, but when we played it live, that song, I remember Wendy said, "I love that country song you guys have," because the intro beat used to be like a. And we're like, okay, well, we're gonna change that first and foremost. And now it's more of a tom beat, but it still has the same groove. Yeah. But like, just the fact is like, it's kind of funny. Like we have a song called Deadlights, which is just all I did is I spent a night going through multiple web browsers with quotes of the Deadlights because I have the book. I'm not going through 1,100 many words trying to find quotes of the Deadlights. Like
when they're already vague as hell.
yeah, I'm like, I'll go online and I'll find them. I'll make a notebook and then I'll write from there. But I just went like, how can I make a book or write a song about the definition of the Deadlights when there is no definition of the Deadlights? How can I encompass that vibe and feeling? And that's where it was just great, like taking lines of like what Pennywise says to just like overall encompassing feelings that other characters display. Like the opening line is like, I am eternal, I am the eater of souls, a terror eating you from within, destroying your sanity. It's like, okay, that's a perfect encompassing it. But oh fuck, now I gotta remember the line.
Oh boy, Nate.
Like I just do a lot of like imagery based off the book. So there's a lot of like wilderness or like shadow tree imagery because Stephen King's really much about his ominous use of shadowy figures and nature and all this crap, and really utilizing that. And like you said, if you can't encompass a lot of what you enjoy in life into your music, it's going to get played out really quick.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like I find it, but with that you also have to understand if you talk about things in life that you might repeat yourself, because just because you dealt with something once does not mean you're not going to deal with it again or continue to deal with it. Yeah, exactly. You might just have different ways of voicing yourself, and still getting that emotion out is it's cathartic. No, cathartic. Yeah, and it's it connects with people. Now you might, if you keep writing the same style of song over and over again, you might get deemed, oh, they only talk about blah, or their singer's really emotional and whiny, or like stuff like that. But if you really just allow things to flow naturally, but at the same time stay aware of maybe where your repetitiveness comes from, you might find ways to express that in ways that don't come off repetitive, so that you still feel fresh. And this is not just for your listener, but for you yourself. I find music, like, you know yourself, if you start writing the same style lick after a while, you get kind of bored of playing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I'm trying to still get out of like kind of, I guess, my own sound in a way and try something new or that. But for lyric wise, I completely understand, because I am 100% the pop punk kid that's constantly writing about, oh, like this girl doesn't like me or whatnot. I go into all my old songs and I'm like, wow, okay, I thought way too long about some of these things. So, but like, yeah, so like for us, right, like we have a few of those songs on like our coming album or that sort of thing, right? But then there also is the ones like the joke songs, like My Ex-Girlfriend or that. And then we do have some of the more serious ones, like I have issues with panic attacks sometimes. So I have, there is a song called Anxiety on the album that I literally wrote during the middle of one, and it's just all the thoughts that came into my head at that point. Right, so each time is a little different, but that's just kind of like a moment in time for me, and a lot of the things that do come constantly to me. So, and
sometimes it's those moments in time that connect more with individuals than the ones that are thought out well over long schemes of time. Like, I'm hypothesizing, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed by the new Tool album when it finally comes out, because of how long they've been waiting. Because of what everyone's preconceived notions of what Maynard's going to say. Because a lot of Tool fans hold Maynard in such a high regard for his high intellect and philosophical like way of pursuing things. And he's sitting there telling all of his fans, you're fucking idiots for putting me on this pedestal. Like,
well, and I think that kind of comes with anything now at this point in time, right? With like the internet and being like people being able to talk so much and so freely about things too. And the best example, like straying away a little bit from music here, is the Star Wars movies, right? And look at episode 8 that came out. Everyone has such high expectations and all these crazy theories on like Snoke and everything like that. I'm really showing my nerd.
Oh, don't worry. Like, we talk about this.
Yeah, I go through this stuff constantly, and like the
I just miss Kyle Katarn being the one that got the plans.
Yeah, exactly. But like, well, yeah, like, even down to like the small stuff of like, oh, like Akbar and everything like that should have been the one that would hold those plays and whatnot. But like, just you dive so deep into it before going into something. You have such high expectations, right? And then if they don't meet those expectations, that's when you have people saying The Last Jedi was absolute garbage.
I definitely agree with that.
I personally don't think it was a bad movie. It was a great movie.
It wasn't their best, but it wasn't their worst.
The best, but yeah, it wasn't the worst. But like, it's still Star Wars at least, right? And I know that even like Mark Hamill was talking about, oh, like Rian Johnson doesn't quite get who Luke was. But think about it just from a human perspective. yeah, if you go through all of that stuff, you're gonna be a little broken and try to distance yourself from it, right? You're not gonna be, as Luke says, oh, I'm gonna walk in with a laser sword and take on the First Order, right?
I think the issue with 8 was it came from a few things. That was the main one, because I remember personally I turned to Cesar because I go to it opening night.
Yeah.
Like have since I was a kid. I still have, actually over Christmas, my sister and I rewatched the 95 VHS of the original trilogy. Oh, yeah. Like the one where Han shoots first. Yeah. And none of that extra CGI bullshit. But like I remember I turned to Cesar on the way and I'm like, I do not want to leave this film happy. Knowing that this is a trilogy and knowing how the beats of not Star Wars, but storytelling, this needs to have an Empire vibe. And right there, I set myself up for disappointment. I do think it also, though, suffered from a disconnect with writing, because my biggest gripe, aside from that, now recognizing like my personal bias on why I didn't like it the first time around, but also looking at how it was written, this is what happens when you don't have script writers and directors that are intertwined throughout trilogies. Yeah. Lord of the Rings did well because Peter Jackson was there start to finish. The original Star Wars trilogies did well in their own regards because of the connect. The third one, the prequels kind of suffered, I think, because George walked in saying, hey, I'm George Lucas. I'm the creator of Star Wars. I wouldn't be here because of that. Yeah, versus the other ones that he had people challenging him and helping him make good stories, which is where we got the original 3 from. And I feel having that disconnect, my anticipation for 9 is I'm curious how JJ is going to fix it. Because a lot of the things he set in motion in 7 were completely tossed aside in 8. And now he's been given the reins on a movie he was originally not going to have a part in, and he has to try and fix it. So that's where I'm now curious, because if you're going to do long-term storytelling like that, you need to have the people involved from the start. You can't replace people mid-term. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is going to come into issues soon, I think, because of that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because like whoever's taking charge is filling in the shoes of James Gunn.
Exactly.
Right? And like he was the embodiment of those first 2 movies.
Half the cast doesn't want to do it now. When when Batista says, I don't want to come back as Drax, like that's a big deal. When Chris Pratt goes, I don't want to come back, that's a big deal. You got 2 of your key guys. When
you had just one of the 3 Chris's saying, I don't want to come back to this.
Yeah.
Whoops.
It's amazing. The reason I bring up Batista, I'm absolutely amazed at how much pull he had. As a wrestling fan, I wasn't sure how he'd come out as an actor, especially since in wrestling he was really good and he was probably the best on the mic for a long time. Like he had that natural charisma. You didn't see him like he was playing a character. He seemed like he was him. Yeah. So when you see him in Bond playing a villain, that's that spark of, oh shit, like he could have a career in action. Like he could go the Rock style. And then you get into Guardians and you see this comedic end of him and you're like, man, dude, fuck John Cena. Like I'm glad he's getting into acting too, but the JBL haircut's a little weird. But Batista, if he actually went into a movie career, he could be doing this at 80 the way Schwarzenegger is doing it.
Exactly.
And I love that about him. But with that, this has been going long. You guys have stuff you have to do. Plug away, guys. Let people know where they can find you. I want to let me know where I can find you too.
Well, we said we're very active on our Instagram, and that's just Reckless Renegade Official. We try to post on there as much as we can. Check the stories, especially. Like we said, we try to put a bunch of funny stuff there. Or today, even we got into town a little early, and we're like, you know where we haven't been since high school? Pharaoh's. And that was that was like the original meeting place for us. And it was like we went there once a week, bought pizza.
Best pizza.
And
for sure. Too. Oh, that little biscuit in the middle.
Yeah. And we would but yeah, like that's where we would discuss kind of what was gonna happen for the next little bit was there. So it was kind of cool, like just walking in, it's like, oh, we're back in high school, like where the band began.
So. What do you guys think of how Hat High and Cape looks now?
I've only seen the outside. I've just heard about the inside. It sounds amazing.
It looks amazing from the outside too. Yeah. The only part I'm sad about is when I go back for like the 5 or 10 year reunion, it's going to be different. I'm not going to recognize anything.
The whole side of wherever you took classes is not there.
It's gone.
Anymore. And then even the part that is still there is completely renovated, right? So like my homeroom probably is definitely not the same thing anymore.
Oh, it isn't. I painted all of Cape, so the north end of
Oh yeah,
Nights.
oh yeah, right. Cape moved into the
north
science,
end.
the science wing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They completely disconnected it. That's now Cape. All that rail that you see in that parking lot.
Yeah.
I painted all that in July from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Oh, there
every
you go.
fucking day. And then I came in here and did some mixing courses until I know it's coming.
It's been coming for a while.
But
Coming down the mountain.
I was just gonna say, you guys are still rather fresh out of high school. My tenure comes up next year. And here's a warning: you're gonna feel old when you realize it's only a year away, and you're like, "Where did time go?"
Yeah, well,
I was 21 when I got. No, wait, 2015. I was 23 when I organized Alt Waves. I was 20 when I got into the scene, and even then, I was like, "Oh, I'm a young kid. I'll be out of here in like a few years, moving on, doing my stuff." And now it's 2019, and I'm like, okay, I'm moving to Calgary in August. Everyone hold me the fuck to it. Damn, I may only be turning 27 this year, but knowing my 10-year grad is only around the corner after that, there's something weird about that.
Yeah. Well, it was even at one point we were thinking back to like how long we've known each other, right? And like pretty much the first time that we hung out was when the band started, because it was just like, oh, like you play drums, I play guitar. Oh, let's just jam or that. And we wrote our first song actually. That
Were the
first
Battle of the
time.
Bands still happening when you guys were in high school?
Yes, I was part of one. I think in grade 9 with like my very first band, but we never entered one.
By the way, I did find a video on YouTube actually the other day because I was trying to find my first band's video and we couldn't find that one, but I found yours. And I was like, oh, there's a little Carter.
Oh man, I don't know if I was able to take it down. But there's definitely footage of my first like show with IOD. It's a bad Halloween show, and you can tell everyone kind of dressed up, and I just went as the hardcore kid. Like Shawn went in his Viking thing. Tyler dressed up as Slash. I think Kevin tried to go as Rob Zombie. Then there's me in my black skinnies, my Miss May I shirt, and my. You know you're trying to grow your hair and you're just past Bieber, but you're not quite at emo fade yet.
And like in that same time, I actually found our first show. It's like the first half of the show is still on YouTube or that. And I watched a bit of it. I'm like, you know what? We actually didn't do half bad. Yeah. So, and okay, really funny story with that though too, is we were the second band up out of 3, I believe. Yeah. Yes. And, we were like just about to finish the first chorus of the first song, and the breaker blew. Like we had blown the breaker, and we're like, okay, so kind of a warm up. And it was like everyone was just like ready to go. And I think we played to like 250 people at our very first show. Or
Dude, that's wicked.
Like we just got thrown right into it basically, and I mean. It could be seen as a good thing, could be seen as a bad thing. For me, though, it was really nerve-wracking. That's the first time I had ever thrown up before a show or anything.
It's good experience, though. Now you know that vibe.
That was actually playing in front of a bunch of people that we went to school with. It wasn't a bunch of nobodies that you won't really see before.
So there's that like extra like self-consciousness.
Yeah, it was like you're gonna hear about this for the rest, for the next 2 weeks, right? And luckily, everyone loved it. And like even in the one social class, this girl pipes up just like, did you hear about this? Like saying it to our like 60-year-old social teacher, right? And it's like they're just going off about it. And like we even got to the point that we actually played at our grad. We played our own rendition of our grad song for that year.
Oh, that's wicked.
And like we kept it pretty hidden as well that we actually were going to be playing at it. So once people had seen it on the
program
in the program or that.
Oh, hello again.
Yeah, she was hiding back there again.
Yeah. It was like once they seen it, like we were just getting like rushed at. Just you guys are playing tonight? Oh, that's gonna be awesome. And the grad banquet or that we had played to was like
1,200 or 1,600.
Yeah, I think it was 1,600 people or something like that. So we played that at 18 years old, and then we had that break, and it was just like unintentional, right? But it was kind of nice because it gave us a chance to kind of reset and figure out what we were doing.
Yeah. And you don't really, especially being like a high school band, it's a really different thing once you go at it a few years later in a different scene, I bet. Because I remember that was the one before For Life and Burden kind of figured their stuff out, because there was a couple of years where they were kind of lolling in between like members leaving, members coming back, not sure where they were going with their music. A lot of people are like, oh shit, is this just what happens to high school bands? They do really good, then they graduate, and then everyone just kind of so. But there's a lot of like to take away from that, because you still have the experience of. I'd actually say it's almost a lot more beneficial than playing in front of strangers. Strangers, you can just go in like, oh, fuck it. No one knows us. It's your first impression. But high school, I completely forget about this, but you do have to deal with that all the time. If you bomb, like I bombed Stairway to Heaven at my grad. I'm fucking glad that classes were done and I didn't have to go back because I practiced it for a bit. Then I stopped giving a damn. Like I get it. And then the day before it comes up, I'm like, oh fuck, speed running through, and I forgot the entire second passage, and it was just it was bad.
Well, and the thing for us too is like we still have strong connections here in Medicine Hat and that. And it was like after we had played that, we were still getting, so when are you guys playing next? When are you guys playing next, right?
Yeah.
Which it was great that we had gotten such a footing so quickly.
Well, you connected with like a lot of your peers at that time.
But then the issue was that we're sorry, we actually can't give you anything right now.
Yeah.
But just like we just needed a little bit of time, and we were able to get it together and are now finally able to fulfill that. Yeah. So it has been a long time coming, but I know we're both really excited about finally doing this and getting this out.
Honestly, I think it was one of the best things to happen. Just right out of high school is to take a break from the band, regroup, and figure out who you are as musicians and as people.
And the one thing with us going to school as well for music, right, is like going into university, again, I was very much like the pop punk kid and that sort of thing, right? And I just for example, I would never really listen to pop radio or that, right? Mm-hmm. Now I throw that on and I'm loving everything pretty much that's coming on there, except for like Cardi B type deal, right? Yeah. But like, other than that, you just expand so much more, and then it comes into your own music too. So like, we haven't even finished this first album, and I'm already thinking ahead to the next one, and like just introducing a little bit of electronic to it, kind of like a lighter version in a way of like Linkin Park type deal.
Oh, that's cool.
I kind of was like an idea of what it might be, but just kind of like throwing in elements of different things in there to make something kind of fresh. So
that's awesome. Because I was just gonna say, because you brought up like Cardi B and all that pop radio, the moment I started giving more of a damn about like just music in general and not just my preferred style, that's when I started just appreciating it a lot more. That's when I went back and downloaded Circus by Britney Spears, or the new Taylor Swift record, because I heard Look What You Made Me Do a few times. I'm like, you know what, that's fucking wait, I'm going to download that first Lady Gaga record again, because, you know, that had some bumping fucking beats.
Yeah,
Mariana's Trench? Fuck yeah, let's get that shit back in there, because Masterpiece Theater was a fucking masterpiece. Yeah. And then you start realizing, especially, I feel a lot of musicians get cynical once they start playing, going from listening to music to playing music, because once you start playing music, you start getting into your own preferred thing, and you start disregarding everything else, and you almost have to relearn to embrace everything again and learn how to bring it back in. And I'm going to segue that into our last song here. That's one thing I feel like, actually before that, you guys kind of do remind me of what One Shot Left did, because they were in Medicine Hat, like really popular pop punk style band. And then they all kind of disappeared and did their own thing for numerous bands, Robertson Privilege being one of them. That's Blair's other band. And then One Shot Left decides to come back for a couple one-off shows every once in a while, and they fill the buckle. Yeah. It's like, I can see you guys pulling off similar things if you keep doing what you're doing, and that's exciting.
And that is something that we're really excited to do once we get a tour booked, is to come back to Medicine Hat and have hopefully like a bunch of the people that grew up with us as well.
Play Heartwood Cafe. They're a pretty bumping new area, and they're like,
sounds good.
It's a good spot to go to. With that, I want to introduce you guys. You already have heard this band on the station before, but I love them. I just finished recording a song with them. I have to get to mixing and editing their shit after we're done this podcast, ironically. This is GreenBones. They're a grunge band from Lethbridge, Alberta. To me, they kind of like do that thing we're talking about, bringing in influences. You don't really hear it in this song. It's a lot calmer, and I think they want to maybe add a few extra layers to pick it up in some spots. But when you listen to, especially the song that they just did with me recently, like the best elements of that late 80s, early 90s grunge before it got polished. So like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nirvana back during the Bleach era, maybe some Nevermind in there. But just like the best of all of that. Their drummer is actually a hype man for a rapper. I can't remember the rapper's name right now. Crap. He's actually he's like a skinny emo kid, but he's got some really intense bars, and he's got quite a following, and Taylor just helps him out. Colin's a great...
Kelly?
No. Although, you know what? I'd love to see those two go at it at some point in time. I think the guy I'm thinking of is like a few feet shorter, but you know what? I don't think MGK could do anything to him. With that though, but Colin's a great bass player, and he has this really soulful voice, and one thing I love about it is you really hear... not just the emotion, but there's like that connection that you get from like listening to a Chris Cornell or Chester, for instance, or Kurt Cobain, just like you feel like he means every word. It's not just something he wrote down to fit a song. It's actually got a place. And Ryan, again, not really overly displayed in this track, but he's a really smart guitarist. And really good to work with in the studio. If I asked him to like tune up because I heard something was out of tune, we had to redo a take, he's already on it. If I'm explaining an idea, and he'd be like very open to experimenting in how his ideas could get better, because again, it goes into working on your songs over amount of time. Fresh ears help, and maybe the producer engineer helps there. So without
trying to get the best thing that you can make, right?
Exactly, your mixing engineer, if you've been working on these songs, your producer, he's essentially like one of your first set of ears to like a public opinion. So but he's the one before you get out, he or she is the one you get to before you actually send it out to the public. So they're not gonna, more often than not, sometimes some audio engineers are more about their personal ego than they are about the benefit of the song in general. But most engineers will give advice based off just what they personally feel would best suit the song in a positive light, and they don't mean it as a slight. Some are bad at saying that, though. Musicians are very antisocial at times. Engineers are even more. Well, they're like,
can confirm with us going to school for that.
yeah. So actually, I can't remember. I think, do you know Justin? I think it's Kaylee. Kennelly, yeah. Yes. I actually throw him my mixes every day. Like I send him stems for that track we listen to. He and I talk all the time. He actually he put a hole in the stage at Liquid Stomping at the last Revankish show.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, like he's an awesome guy. Shout out Justin. Tell him I say hi next time you see him too, because I noticed you guys work in the same. What is that thing actually? Quickly.
Empire 70. Yeah, it's just like a live off the floor production company sort of thing. Nate's joining that as well.
Nice.
Yeah, basically
I recognized you. I couldn't tell what the
we just want to throw things back to like the way they were done in like the 60s, 70s, where you just do a full take, and it's just raw and personal. So it's just live albums and get some cool bands in. That's
awesome. And all the guys involved, from what I've seen, are very, very motivated individuals that mean well, which is nice. Because I was talking to Justin after I did the first GreenBones session, like, so what's actually happening in Lethbridge? Oh, we got this vibrant scene. And then I didn't mean it as a slight, but I was just like, oh, really? Because I just had a band from your area come to me and they had nothing to say about Lethbridge in regards to anything. It's like, oh, they must not be looking hard. I'm like, that could be it. On the other,
and that really is like, if you get your toe in there at least, right? It opens up to everything in Lethbridge, honestly. Mm-hmm. So it's very
it's a big arts community, especially with both the university and the college there. Yeah. Like there's so many artists and musicians and stuff like that. It's a really cool kind of almost like a melting pot of southern Alberta. Yeah.
Well, I know I'm not in Lethbridge and I'm moving to Calgary, but I'd love to maybe work with you guys sometime down the line. Because, again, everyone involved, Justin, you guys, you all seem like really cool guys. You guys seem like you've grown up quite a bit from the kids I met.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, in areas, there, we still make the immature jokes every now and then. But
I'll make a joke at this, but, being 3 shows deep and then telling local promoters you want $200 after for new local shows, that's a way to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah,
I laughed at it. The others, not so much, but I just went, they're new kids. They just played like a show here. Like, give them a break.
Yeah.
But we didn't even pay the out of town bands 100. Like 100 was our breaking point. So when you hear like double, you're like, oh wow, damn. Do you guys know how much money actually is in this right now?
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah.
But we should wrap this up.
Oh, exactly. That's why I'm going into this last thing. Again, you guys seem like you've come leaps and bounds. I'm excited for your stuff. Go and follow Reckless Renegade on all their socials. Again, we're going to probably have a video. I noticed one of my cameras stopped, so it's going to be over here for however long. But yeah, it fell asleep. With that, enjoy. Here's GreenBones, and enjoy it, because they have not actually released this track yet. I just get special privileges and get to show it when I want. So
weird flex
indeed. I just really enjoy these guys. They're solid cats. I'm extremely humbled and honored to have them coming down here once a month for the next 3 months, and I'm excited to not only help them bring out what they want to bring out, but also help them give it to you guys to check it out, because that's one of the benefits of having a platform like this. I don't know how many people it reaches. We just kind of started the streaming thing on sites, but the entire goal is just to talk music, talk about the scene. In this case, have the pleasure of interviewing individuals and getting their perspective on everything. And maybe you guys can take something away from it if you're in bands and you hear something that might be helpful. Maybe I say something utterly stupid that actually kind of rings a bell and you're like, okay, let's not do what the idiot said. or vice versa. Like if anything we say is helpful, like we just say it because I've learned a lot from not only my experience, but listening to other people recount their past experience. And I think I've avoided a few holes and I've dug myself out of a few holes that I've put myself in because of that. And if I can help other individuals, or if anyone here can help other individuals through just voicing their stories on what's happening, or if Matt can brighten your day by letting you know what's going on in the modern music scene and letting you know what crazy shit's happening, then that's great. We hope you enjoy. Once again, this is the GreenBones Time, and they're from Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada.
like that. Easy segue from Cannibal Corpse to ACDC.
Somehow got that.
Yeah. We may listen to rather extreme shit, but we're still educated. We grew up on it. We know.
Think that's like us Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Well, that's how I found out about Cannibal Corpse. I watched Ace Ventura, and then I watched it.
Of everyone.
Yeah, and then I bought Gore Obsessed and went, this isn't really my thing, but this is cool. The artwork's rather holy fuck, but...
Same with me and Nate Bohnet, him just talking to Larry Payne about like his love or death metal and talking to like about...
Yeah, I was just gonna say, his like vocal accentuation of what death metal vocalists do.
One of these days he's gonna want to settle down and just do ballads.
Oh my goodness. I love